That's world first tier 5 Deadpool. That's right, tier 5. It's a joke, but if you tier 4 him, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Because in the tier 4 advancement, it says, I want to be tier 5. So he's already predicting in advance what's coming from Marvel Future 5. But we got Deadpool tier 4. We locked it down. Lots to talk about as far as having 2 uniforms, synergy, PvE, PvP. One thing I want to discuss at the top is consider the value of tier 4. Because for speed types especially, tier 3 doesn't usually cut it due to the fact that they don't have enough base stats. So if you take a look at all of the existing tier 4 speed characters and you think, man, which ones are good at tier 3? You do have some contenders here, like Miles, like Gamora, but then for the most part, they need tier 4. Even more recent ones, Rogue needs tier 4 badly, Mystique needs tier 4, Quicksilver needs tier 4, Luna gains a lot from tier 4. Spider-Man can do a little bit of work without it, but he relies on his artifact and, that sort of thing. So I think more than other classes, the speed class really needs the tier 4. But I also need to answer the question, like, should you be tier 4ing Deadpool? That's a really big one. So we're going to be discussing that as well. As far as the build goes, we have 12 Odin's Blessings with a bit of a skew towards PvP, but not fully. We are rank 14, so fairly high. Power of Anger Hulk maxed out. 5-star artifact plus 6. Wrong Instinct, but that's okay because it gives him the immortality thing, so it's only really for PvP. And then right now we're rocking a CTP of energy. I'm going to show you how proc friendly he is in just a second here. I'm also going to show you how it's the exact same rotation. It's 3 cancel 4 with a little delay into 5 for all of his, for like either uniform, whether it's Handsome Pool or regular Deadpool. Now, big thing to note here is that it's not an instant cancel. If you instant cancel, you do not get the explosions on 4, and the explosions on 4 add a ton of damage. So instead of 134 hits, if you do a slight delay on 4, and you will need to get used to the delay, then you get the explosions, and that 130 hits becomes almost 250 hits. So you can practice the combo here, but it's just a slight delay for him to throw up the grenades, and then you can go ham sandwich, and you get close to 90 hits. Whereas if you instant cancel, you're not going to get the explosions at all. It doesn't look very cool. You can sort of see visually that you missed, and you only get about half the hits. So that's basically it for Deadpool. The only other thing I would mention is that his tier 3 skill sucks, so you should cancel out of it into his other skills. That's basically all there is to it. I think there are some buffs on his tier 3 skill that are nice. There is a 50% damage proc, which is not bad, but I wouldn't worry too much about it if you missed passing it. But yeah, trying to pass that on is good, but I wouldn't rush through his skills. Like I wouldn't do rush through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, especially if you're missing the proc. I would take it slow because his tier 3 is like not really adding much. But yeah, that's basically it, and that's how you play him, whether he has this uniform or Handsome Pool. But Handsome Pool should always be better due to the fact that his leadership gives him 40% increased damage to boss types. That's a full passive support on top of everything else. However, keep in mind, at least in my testing, that's available on the live stream if you want to go and check that out, we didn't notice much of a difference at level 70 and level 80 tier 3. So for whatever reason, it didn't notice, there wasn't a huge difference. He was only ever about 10 to 15 seconds faster, whereas at tier 4, you now see a huge difference, especially on higher stages of more difficult bosses like Gene Kang, Black Swan. Stage 24 of Kang here to illustrate the difference in damage for PvE between the new Deadpool mask on and the Handsome Pool mask off. But one thing I want to highlight at the beginning about the first and second skill is that although I don't think that they are necessary for the rotations, I do acknowledge that they allow you to charge up your tier 4 faster, which is very good. So it takes a little bit of getting used to. It's certainly a little bit harder to play him this way, but if you can master it, I think you will see some pretty nice returns on your Deadpool damage, whether you're using one uniform or the other. Doesn't matter which uniform. So yeah, because the nice thing is for Deadpool, and the reason why the comparison just has to be damage and nothing else, is because the rotation is exactly the same. So as you can see here, 45-second phase 1, and that's using Deadpool's lead, not using Nick Fury's lead for the additional 20% attack. Switching gears to Handsome Pool, same leadership plus the 40% increased damage to boss types. So this should stack really nicely, as you can see, with his tier 4, which gives him damage. So he just gets a ton of damage. We actually kick Kang into the next phase after the very first rotation. So you can already see the power of this uniform taking effect and just being like silly high damage here. Really nice stuff. You just got to wait a little bit here and then combo him off. And it should be close to 10 bars. Really nice stuff. So 30 seconds in, and we are looking at the last phase. I'm going to just go through and you know, attack, even though he's going to do the blast there. And, you know, if you didn't have the artifact, you're at risk of dying, but I have the artifact, so it doesn't matter. I think it actually triggered. You can see 5 seconds on the timer there, but it's fine. But as you can see, that's only a 10-second difference, right? That's 10 seconds for phase 1 of stage 24. That's a low stage. When you go up to a much higher stage of Kang now, for example, you can see a much bigger difference. Super proc friendly throughout all of this testing, by the way. Haven't really missed many procs, but popping up to stage 45 of Kang, here is where you're going to start to see a lot more separation between the two Deadpools and really isolate why the handsome pool is the PvE uniform out of the group, out of the duo, right? So you can see here, when you pop the tier 4, you do get a little nice burst of damage, which is cool. And you still play it the exact same way, right? Slight delay on 4 and then just rattle everything off. But yeah, as you can see, a lot less damage than we were dealing before on these phases. So you are really, you know, fighting against time for the most part. That's 30 seconds just to get to this blast phase. We're going to see how many bars he can get down to just by the 1 minute mark, but I don't think it's going to be much better than about 45. We'll have to wait and see here. Okay, 46. Tanks it, nice. And then we'll just give him this last rotation here to pop off with a bit of extra damage. And yeah, so he gets to about 43 bars in a minute, which is not great if you want to clear the stage. On the flip side, Handsome Pool should perform a little bit better. Is it going to be enough to clear this stage, or, you know, get close to clearing the stage? I don't know, but you can already see that he's doing north of 3 bars versus, you know, for his regular rotation versus whatever the regular Deadpool was doing. So this already feels quite a bit smoother. Now, you do have to wait a considerable amount of time. Like, you'll have skills ready to do, and you'll just have to be patient and wait, because otherwise, well, he tanks that really well. Otherwise, you're going to set yourself up to miss procs, especially when you have the tier 3 active. So I would just advise you to be careful of that. When the tier 3's up, don't get too juicy-eyed sort of thing. I don't know what juicy-eyed is, but you know what I mean? When you see it and you're like, oh man, I want to press the skill. I want to press the skill. You gotta just like hold on there. Tanks it, nice. So yeah, we're already 5 bars ahead, and these are really the kind of comparisons that you need to make in order to see how one uniform is actually much better for PvE when it matters. So being a little bit less generous to this uni, because Kang moved during my last rotation and we paused it right at 3:59 or 4 minutes, or, you know, with 1 minute gone, we're at about 37 bars. So that's almost 10 bars more damage. With the previous clear, I know a lot of it's based on feel, but for those of you that clear Kang consistently, you know that that other Deadpool could not have cleared that stage 45. This actually looks like a doable clear. It's going to be difficult, but if I play this out here, and if my artifact is not triggered yet so that I can go in and pop off some damage here, and what's really nice about Deadpool is his 5th skill moves him around, so you actually get to dodge attacks sort of natively. But you can see here, we're going to get to the next phase with over 3.5 minutes left. That is really that's really the benchmark time, is 3 minutes and 30 seconds or more, right? So this is absolutely doable. So on lower stages, and this is what I really wanted to illustrate with the uniforms, on lower stages, you're not going to notice a difference. Especially before you get to tier 4, but especially if you're doing lower stages, you're not going to notice the difference between these two uniforms. You're going to think they're basically the same for PvE, besides the leadership, and you're going to be like, oh, the leadership doesn't do anything. But when you get to higher stages, oh, it's super noticeable, where one Deadpool basically cannot do it at all, and the other one is actually doing it. So depending on your needs as a player, you basically have those two options. For PvE, which is World Boss, ABX, ABL, GBR, that kind of stuff, handsome pool, mask off Deadpool is going to be your best bet, partially because of that leadership and partially because he just does more damage. With the PvP side of things in comparison, you're going to want the mask on Deadpool. The mask on Deadpool, the regular Deadpool, if you will, the OG Deadpool, is going to be your best bet for PvP, mainly because he has iframe ignore. So that's just like the really big difference. There's other differences between the two uniforms for PvP specifically, but the big one is that this one has iframe ignore, and that's what you need. Just keep in mind that for PvP, you would want to go with a completely different build as far as the CTP goes, and you would need the artifact by default. I want to show you guys something interesting. With a CTP of authority, even as a brilliant, Deadpool has one big problem. As you're going to see, unfortunately, that problem is damage. Now, we're using a standard Colossus Wasp team up, and the person on the other team has Colossus as well, so lots of damage reduction all around. But one hallmark of a good PvP character is their ability to actually kill another PvP character, right? You have to be able to deal damage in order to win. You can't win just by tanking. So despite how tanky Deadpool is and the artifact procs and everything, he just doesn't have enough damage to ever even get Sentry to half of his HP. Let alone kill Sentry. He doesn't even have enough to do half of his HP. What's going to happen when he runs into a Wolverine or another combat type that has advantageous typing against him, right? Combat versus speed. So it really puts into perspective that if you're going to build your Deadpool for PvP, you're going to want to go offensive. So that actually narrows your list down for PvE and PvP for Deadpool, because of course PvE is going to be offensive. It's going to be energy, CTPs, or rage. But then PvP is also going to be very aggressive and offense focused. However, unlike Adam Warlock and other, Domino type characters, Deadpool doesn't have guard break immunity native on his kit. So as much as I would like to say that, oh man, he could be a hybrid character and you could slap like a Mighty or a Brilliant Energy, and sure, you could try that, but I feel like it'll be very frustrating. I think alternatively, if you really want to take him seriously in PvP, Greed CTP is a much better option, especially a Mighty or a Brilliant, because that's going to give you access with the ambush proc to things like, not things like, but it's going to give you access to, not iframe ignore, sorry, reflect immunity. It also gives you, I believe, 100% ignore dodge. So that's why, even if you don't have a Brilliant version, I would recommend a Mighty CTP of Greed. I think this is going to be one of the better options, if not the best option. It's often paired very well in the past with other characters that have the immortality passive. Obviously, it pairs super well with Wolverine, who, Deadpool is basically a carbon copy of. So let's just go back and check out some of these fights now and see, he may still die for sure, but let's take a look at the damage. Instead of only getting Sentry to less than half of his health, which is certainly an indicator that there's not enough damage there, what can we see now with a Greed CTP? Not to mention the fact that a Greed CTP is also going to give him access to the ambush proc, which gives him reflect immunity. So there you go. He gets a kill there on Sentry. Now, is he going to be strong enough now that his artifact has procced to survive Sentry and kill him again? Maybe not. No, in this case not, which is not great, and we'll touch on his PvP review in a later video, but I just wanted to highlight that for you guys that are already considering Deadpool for PvP. You don't have as many options for the PvP build if you want to maintain a hybrid situation. You basically just have a more risky option of like a Mighty Brilliant Energy, which I don't think is really great, or what I think is the best option, which is a Mighty or Brilliant Greed, which still allows him to at least proc for some damage in PvE while maintaining the damage that he needs, the output that he needs to actually kill other enemy characters in PvP. Overall, I would say this is a huge step up for Deadpool from where he's been for the past 5 years, basically. He's essentially right on the doorstep of the meta for lots of things, and because he's getting 2 uniforms, he actually can be used in a ton of different content. However, I would like to see his PvP performance be a little bit more distinguished, considering that, as we've said time and time again, speed male heroes don't have a solid place in the PvE meta right now. So despite how good he is for PvE and how fun he can be to play and his animations and stuff like that, he just doesn't really have a point where you can say, that's where you're going to use him and that's where he's going to bring you value. PvP is another beast altogether, but it does require a more invested build and it does require more moving parts. So the verdict's sort of still out on that one there, but at least you are now equipped with the knowledge of the differences between these 2 uniforms, how they perform for different content, and how to build your Deadpool in both scenarios. Thank you so much for watching the video. Smash the like button if you enjoyed the content, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.